Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the Leatherman micro multi-tool that is the E4 and the ES4. This was a line of multi-tools that was released in the early to late 2000s, and it catered to a specific niche of wire stripping. These are very small wire strippers, and they offer a bunch of other tools inside the multi-tool that make it convenient to use for small electronic projects. Let's get into the E4, which I keep in my main electronics kit here. Pull that off and take it out of the table here. We'll put this pack off to the side. We'll go over it in a moment here. And then let's go over the ES4 in this kit, my hybrid tool kit. Put that on the side. And we have a pair of Klein tools, wire strippers, just for a comparison function. So this is the E4. It's a small micro tool, very useful, has a nice variety of tools on it. Let's start with the outside here. We have a 2D, or a 3D rather, Phillips head screwdriver, which is quite nice for something of this size. So it's an actual 3D Phillips head. Works fairly well. On this side we have the slotted screwdriver and can opener with a slight pointed part here on the outside and a smaller tip here. And then on this side, we have a slotted screwdriver. And then we also have our tweezers, which fits right in the scale here, which is quite nice for a small tool. On this side, we have our 420 HC stainless steel blade. And then next to it, we have the three-sided file, a coarse section that's cross-hatched, bottom section that has teeth, and a fine gradient section that's single hatched. And those are the outer tools for the E4. On the inside, we have a wire stripper with a gripper needle nose at the very tip here, so you can actually grip items too. It's quite nice. We have a 20 gauge, 18 gauge, 16 gauge, 14 gauge, and 12 gauge wire stripping function with this E4. So we compare that to the Klein tools. This goes up to about 26 on the AWD stranded, and solid it goes up to 22. So basically you have 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, which is the coverage of this smaller tool, and this adds like about 3 or 4 extra on this Klein tools. So this does get a good portion of the spectrum coverage, but not all the spectrum. But it's good for something this size compared to, say, a traditional wire stripper here, which is very good to use, a proper tool. This can help you in a pinch, this little tool. Now let's compare this tool to the ES4, and we got a couple other comparisons coming up too to talk about with these tools here. So again, on the outside tool set, we have the 420 HC stainless steel blade, which we'll pull this one out so we can see the comparisons here. About the same thing. And we'll get to the three-sided file, which pretty much is the same thing. We have single hatch, fine gradient section, a third section on the bottom, and then finally a cross-hatch section on this one. It's a little bit more aggressive on the ES4 versus the E4, but it's essentially the same thing. Let's get to the other slot here. So on the bottom here, we'll have a slotted screwdriver, if I can pick this out here. Now this is a 2D one, very small, as opposed to the 3D one on the E4. And the slotted screwdriver bottle cap lifter is also a little bit different on the ES4. As we can see here, it's a little bit thicker on the head here and has a bit of a curve here on the belly, as opposed to this one being more finer point. Now in this section here, we have a new tool on the ES4. This is the scissors. It's spring loaded here. And in the older tool, we would only have a slotted screwdriver and the tweezers. So that is one of the changes they've done, along with the scales and how they cut it. So we have a pair of scissors, which is the namesake of the ES4. Now the heads are pretty much the same for the wire cutters, wire strippers, and they're both spring-loaded. They both have a fine grip point tip at the head here, and we have, again, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12 gauge wire stripping capabilities, along with a wire cutter in the center as well. Now I do have an older Leatherman P4, which will compare to the ES4 and the E4 here. And I keep it dummy corded to this kit here, one of my EDC kits. So once again, we have the blue outside, the Squirt P4, and the outside functions have a little bit different tool set. So instead of the tweezers in this section here, like you would have on the E4, we have an actual awl in here. And instead of the scissors on the ES4, we have the awl also. And then we also have a slotted screwdriver, which is the same as the E4. And once again, there's no scissors in this side. And we have a 2D Phillips head screwdriver, much like the ES4. So you can see it's about the same here. And then they all have a slotted screwdriver, with a bottle cap lifter, and this one's the newer variant as opposed to the slotted screwdriver bottle cap lifter version in the E4. So from left to right, we have the P4, ES4, and the E4. So the ES4 and the Squirt P4 share the same slotted screwdriver bottle cap lifter, while the E4 has a slightly different one. Finally, we get to the tool on the inside. We have a plier-based multi-tool. We have a needle nose, a regular section, and a wire cutter section, and it's both spring-loaded. Now, the file on the outside, let's get back to the outside here, is a three-sided file. Once again, fine gradient, single-hatched, teeth on the bottom, and crossed hatch section on the back, which is more coarse. It's very similar to the file on the ES4 as opposed to the E4. Let's get them out so we do a little bit of a comparison here and check the aggression. Yeah, the files are a little bit different actually. They're looking at them, they're slightly different in the coarse section here, feeling them as well. The most aggressive is the ES4, which is quite interesting, and with about the same aggression for both the P4 and the E4. It's quite interesting to note that with the ES4, it's a little bit different. And then going to the 420 HC stainless steel blade. Once again, this is pretty much the same blade across all three platforms. I'll pull this one out on the E4 real quick. About the same. So we have the same blade across all platforms here. And of course, this one's in much better condition. And that is the comparison of the tools. Once again, the E4 and the ES4 are unique in that you can't find these anymore on the market. They don't make these anymore, the ES4 or the E4, and they go for a high price now. I have heard that the head units and the springs tend to get broken. I got this used on eBay a little while ago, and I did oil up, and still some of the oils here getting all the dirt and rust out, but works fairly well. I use them in my electronic kits and my tool kits, as they are a lot smaller option than the typical wire cutters you would find. Then they make other types of wire cutters, not just this Klein Tools one. We're just using this as an example for the wire stripping portion. They do make smaller, flatter ones too of the Klein variant, which is quite nice. Not a bad idea to grab one for a kit, but these go into my kits here and they work fairly well. And that's all I have to say about the Leatherman ES4 and the E4. Fantastic tools. If you can find them for a good price, I recommend picking them up. It's unfortunate that Leatherman doesn't make these kind of tools anymore. I think it would be quite nice to see these come back into service, as well as the Leatherman Crunch. Thank you for watching, and enjoy your day.